Okay. Hello, everyone, with Global Chat. This week, it's really a privilege for me to join you again with a new subject that you're studying this week about satisfaction. And this question is satisfaction possible, right? Real satisfaction. So today, I just wanted to share quickly with you some thoughts from the Bible about this subject of satisfaction. Maybe another word is contentment. And how do we think about this from a biblical perspective? So I think a good place to begin with this subject is in the book of Ecclesiastes. I don't know if all of you have heard of this book in the Bible. It was written by King Solomon. And it's really a very unique book in the Bible compared to all the other ones. Uh, King Solomon. He was the son of King David. And he's writing the book of Ecclesiastes from the perspective of what it's like to be someone who pursues earthly pleasures and fantastic things in this world with all of his heart, but then discovers very honestly that everything he attempts to pursue and to find happiness and satisfaction in the end, he concludes is all vanity, emptiness, meaninglessness. And there's a verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11. It says this, that God has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from beginning to end. And the part, we could say many things about this verse, but the thing I want to focus on is where it says, God has put eternity in their hearts or in our hearts. And the way we think about it is this, is that in every one of us, God has put a hole, a capacity or a desire. And this whole is measured by eternity. And this actually speaks of the insatiable nature of men and women living on the earth. It means that there really is nothing that can satisfy us. Many things can satisfy us temporarily for a period of time. But sooner or later, that becomes old and dissatisfying. So example, I might think, oh, I would like to eat a juicy steak or maybe a wonderful donut or something, and I eat it imagining that it will satisfy me, but it satisfies me for only a short time. And this is the case for everything in this world, because actually we are not designed by God to be satisfied by the things that are in the world, whether it's work, whether it's pleasure, maybe even travel or adventures. These things can satisfy us for a short time. So in the New Testament, Paul writes about the reality that actually in God, with a relationship with God, we can find satisfaction that is long lasting and that does not come to an end, because this hole in our heart is designed to be filled with God, with a relationship with God. everything, anything in this world, it will not fill that hole or that hunger, that desire. But a relationship with God can and does fill us. And this relationship with God does produce in us the experience of real satisfaction that lasts. So, a couple verses in first is in Philippians chapter 4, verse 11. Paul says that he says, this starts in verse 11. He says, "Not that I speak to you in regard to need or desiring anything, because I have learned in whatever state I am in to be content." The next verse goes on, and Paul says that he has learned to be poor or abased, to have very little, but also he has learned to abound or to be very filled in physical way or in the ways of this world. So what he says is, I've learned contentment or satisfaction in whatever is my outward situation or circumstance. And the word learned there is actually the word that corresponds to the word to be discipled, to learn not as a student in a classroom, but to actually as a follower of Jesus Christ. God has taught Paul, and he can teach you and I how to be content or how to be satisfied regardless of the situation that we're in. If I have a little bit of money, if I have much money, actually, Paul says I can be content, right? If I am alone or if I'm with many people, doesn't matter. I can be content. And this is because of this relationship with God. And if you read the next verse, in verse 13, this is the context that Paul says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Meaning, in the context or the idea of being content in this relationship with God. So another verse that goes along with this is 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9, where Paul is actually discontent and he prays to God, and God answers him and says, my grace is sufficient for you. That in whatever situation, if you're suffering, if you're weak, my grace is sufficient for you. And Paul said, okay, if this is true, then I will actually be glad in my situation of weakness, in inability, because I can just receive the grace of God, whatever the situation. And he actually experiences physical weakness, maybe emotional weakness, but deep contentment, satisfaction in his heart, because he is receiving the grace of God. And then the last verse is in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 5. It says this, let your conduct be without covetousness. Covetous means to desire something that is not mine, to covet something, to desire something that God has not given to me. So he says, live your life without covetousness. Be content with such things as you have. For he himself has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That's amazing. He's saying here that we can be content. We don't have to desire money. We don't have to desire the things of this world because we have Jesus Christ in our life. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you, God says, Jesus says. So verse 6 says, so we may boldly say, the Lord is my helper. I will not fear what can man do to me. So this is defining a very great, beautiful satisfaction, contentment, because I'm living in a faith relationship with Jesus Christ. And this is true satisfaction, true contentment, and it is for any one of us to enter this relationship with him. Okay, so thank you very much for listening. And if you have time, please check out these verses on your own in the Bible. Okay, God bless you. We love you very much. Bye-bye.